All right, guys, so we got to talk about TYT's resident educated, and I say educated in quotes here for a reason, race hustler, Rashard Richey, whom makes a living talking about white people acting up in public, okay? This guy produces like 3 or 4 Karen videos a day, right? 3 or 4 Karen videos a day, because that seems to be the biggest problem in our society nowadays that he feels like he should talk about, right? White folks acting up in public. Karens, right? Karens, right? That is what this guy's concerned about, okay? And I'm going to react to Rashard Richey once again being triggered, okay? But this time, it's actually, he's triggered at white police officers who chose not to arrest an Asian woman after she showed them her white privilege card. Now, I already did this story before, okay? It was the woman in Alaska that was allegedly weaving while she was driving. Police pulled her over. She was coming back from a Trump rally or something like that. She showed her white privilege card, and the police thought it was funny, and they let her go, okay? So this guy is triggered by this. He has a problem with the fact that this woman is getting off after showing a white privilege card, okay? And he's talking about the cops and the justice system not doing their job, okay? But for whatever reason, he has nothing to say about what happened with the Paul Pelosi situation, in which this guy was caught drunk driving, and it looks like he's either probably going to get away with it, or he's going to get off a lot more softly than normal citizens would. In fact, I want you guys to take a look at this Jesse Waters piece real quick on Paul Pelosi, because I want you guys to understand before I get into this video, just the fact that this guy won't even talk about Paul Pelosi, but he's triggered by this, tells you exactly who this guy is, right? He's simply a partisan race hustler who is a propaganda artist for the progressive left in the Democrat Party. So let's go ahead and roll the clip.
As far as we know, Paulie P's DUI might be the first case in history that has 2 defense teams and no prosecution. His lawyers obviously want to get him off the hook. That's why he pled not guilty. But we can't figure out why the prosecution's fighting so hard to clear Big Paul's name. We witnessed more of their suspicious plan today when Napa County DA Allison Haley, hey Allie, once again blocked the release of the dash cam and body cam footage. Isn't that the opposite of what she told the entire country on camera last night?
Dash cam video is evidence in this case, and I'm ethically prohibited from releasing that. As soon as this matter is over, I have no direction to provide CHP, and they are free to do with it what they like.
Now, Allie's saying her position on the release of the footage never changed. We just heard it wrong. Okay. And now ABC News in San Francisco is reporting that there was a second person in the Porsche. Yeah, you heard that right. Listen.
The charges stem from a crash in late May near his home in St. Helena. We learned this morning that a second person was in Pelosi's Porsche.
Did you hear that? A second person was in Pelosi's Porsche? Who was the second person? Was that the witness who called 911 and then disappeared? Or was it a female or was it a male? Not that there's anything wrong with that. Yeah, we have both defense teams, there is no prosecution, telling us don't pay attention to that. It is not real. Paul Pelosi's lawyer told us that that's false, writing this. I am telling you that there was no one else in Mr. Pelosi's vehicle. This is the same Pelosi team that told us there was no mugshot. So take that with a grain of salt. So if Pelosi's lawyer says there was no one else in the car, will they be asking for a retraction from ABC? Well, Paulie P's lawyer said, I have no information as to whether or not that will be pursued. Well, that's not all. What if I told you there was another Paul Pelosi in Napa County who was arrested for drunk driving in 2018, who hired the same lawyer, Amanda Bevins, and who got off with a misdemeanor slap on the wrist? We found that little nugget buried in the Napa County Court website, but both defense teams say it's not the same guy. They have different birthdays. What are the chances of 2 Paul Pelosi's drunk driving around Napa, getting busted for DUIs, and using the same defense attorney? I mean, they must have to be the smallest chance.
Yeah, so a story, in my opinion, that warrants a lot more outrage, right, is not getting any attention at all from Rashard Richey, right? He's more concerned about this Asian woman who is going to get off because she flashed a white privilege card, but not Paul Pelosi, who was clearly a hammer, right? Probably had all types of narcotics in his system. Tried to flash a police membership card to get out. Dude didn't even stay in jail for 24 hours. Okay, he got his charges down to like a misdemeanor or something like that. Should be a felony. Okay, he got in a crash. Could have killed somebody. Allegedly had somebody in his car with him, probably his mistress, right? Because we all know Nancy Pelosi at this point, she powder dry. Okay, so I'm just saying. The stories this guy chooses to cover and not cover really blows my mind. He has nothing to say about Hunter Biden, but he got something to say about Matt Gaetz and Matt Gaetz' alleged drug use, but has nothing to say about Hunter Biden, the guy who allegedly is selling influence overseas, right? The influence of his dad, who's the president of the United States, who was the vice president of the United States at the time. Nothing. No videos on it at all. Not even a, hey, this is what's happening, folks. I'm not giving you my opinion because, I don't want to, upset my audience. No, none of that. So, anyways, I want to get into this reaction, this guy melting down over this situation.
I have an update to a story we covered a few weeks ago. Remember the woman who was pulled over by the police? She showed them a white privilege card. They all laughed, and they let her go. She didn't even have a license, and they let her go. Well, those officers are now disciplined, so to speak. Well, let me first remind you of the video. Here it is.
You like my white privilege card?
That's hilarious.
It's better than
Get through death. That's good. What's
Put up the picture full mass here of this particular individual who flashed a white privilege card and was able to get out of a ticket. So this was in Anchorage, all right? So Anchorage police officers violated department policy. They are now facing disciplinary action. That's according to a report. The woman you're looking at, her name is Mimi. Mimi is a Trump supporter. That card represents, hey, I'm a flaming Trump supporter. And so the other Trump supporters laughed at this and let her go, all right? Now,
well, the card in and of itself does not scream, I'm a flaming Trump supporter, okay? The card in and of itself is a play off of this idea that white privilege is supposed to get you out of every situation, okay? White privilege is supposed to be your get out of jail free card, okay? Because white people apparently are inherently superior to everybody else in society. The things that you say all the time, right? That is what it is. And that's why this dude is so pissed off about this, because he knows that she's basically using his arguments against him to say, well, if I got white privilege, here's my white privilege card, I must be able to get out anything, right? And he's mad because in this situation, looks like apparently that worked. But every single video this guy makes on his channel is, well, white people are so privileged and, white supremacy and such and such and such and such. Okay? So what are you mad about this Asian woman gaining the system for? What are you mad about? What are you so upset about? But yeah, I mean, this card has nothing to do with Trump. Her hat has something to do with Trump, but this card has nothing to do with Trump. He's just mad because he thinks that these cops are Trump supporters and that this woman obviously supports Trump. That's what he's mad about.
Now, during the traffic stop last month when Mimi was in town for a Trump rally, rather than show them her driver's license, she showed them the white privilege card that you see and was not ticketed. Days after the traffic stop, Mimi said in a Facebook post that she was pulled over for weaving at 3:43 a.m. Weaving at 3:43 a.m. while driving to a pizzeria after an early morning flight from California for the rally. The novelty card reads, white privilege card trumps everything. All right, there you have it. We actually saw these being sold on Amazon. We covered that when they were there as well. Mimi, in her Twitter biography, described herself as Filipino origin. Anchorage Police Department Director of Community Relations, Sonny Gurin. Let's put up Sonny here. So Sonny says, based on the statement to the press, it's not clear what policy was violated or what, if any, disciplinary actions the officers face, because the department is treating it as a confidential personnel matter. White privilege. confidential personnel matter here. Nothing to see, fellas. All right, this is covered. We're going to file this over in the white privilege column.
What is this man talking about? Who is experiencing white privilege here? Is the Asian woman who's not white, is she experiencing white privilege because she got off? Or are the cops experiencing white privilege who were punished, okay? Because they were placed on administrative leave while they investigated what happened. The department came out publicly and said, yeah, they got it wrong, that we don't support them letting this woman off like that. But apparently somebody has white privilege. So my question is, what does Dr. Richey want to happen here? Because if the cops would have pulled a woman out the car and beat her up, right, you would have been up here screaming, whining, and crying and complaining, talking about cops arresting and beating up a woman of color. They let a woman of color off, and you still complaining because she's a Trump supporter. So does her woman of color status not matter anymore because she supports Trump? That's what's going on here. Her woman of color status does not matter simply because she disagrees or he disagrees with her political beliefs, right? Because again, we all know what he would be saying if the story went the other way. If he actually, if these cops pulled her out of the car, right, arrested her, okay, and she wasn't actually drunk or something like that, we all know how this story would go. These are the same people that vouch that police should be softer on so-called people of color. That police should take it easy when it comes to minor infractions. Now, again, this was, you know, what could have been a DUI. However, the police, under their own discretion, didn't see any reason to charge her with that, right? Now, I don't know if they actually conducted any tests or anything like that. She didn't have a license, but her not having a license on her doesn't automatically mean that, you know, they're going to write her a citation or whatever, okay? Especially if they can see that she does have a license. Maybe she forgot it. Who knows? But I'm just saying, you weren't there. You don't know why they didn't give her a citation. I have doubts that if she was obviously drunk, I mean, we're talking about, like, you know, alcohol on breath, you know, slurring words, like, you know, red eyes, whatever, right? I have my doubts that they would let her off like that. They would just let her go because, again, it's like one of those things where you don't want to play with that type of stuff. I don't think police play with that, right? I think they knew that she wasn't drunk, okay? They found a joke to be funny, and it was like, okay, I'm going to let you off. Which happens when you actually treat police with respect and decency. When you do what you need to do, a lot of times they just let you off. Especially for minor things. And honestly, that should be the moral of the story here, right? If Rashard Richey actually cares about his audience like he claims he does, his black audience, right? Say, look, black people, this is what happens when you don't pop off at the lip, when you don't try to disrespect and fight back against police. This is what happens. Oh, you get off, right? You get off. You might get a break, okay? That's what the moral of the story should be here. But no. It's this guy being upset because an Asian woman apparently, you know, experienced some white privilege, or these police officers. I don't know which, right? Who knows?
Column. There's more. Officers Nicholas Bowe and Charles Worland with the Impaired Driving Enforcement Unit conducted a traffic stop on July 7th for a car weaving in the lane, according to Sunny. She didn't identify the driver, who she said showed a white privilege card during the stop. Officers, according to their current story, observed no signs of impairment. Wait a minute. You mean to tell me that weaving in and out of traffic means you're showing no signs of impairment?
Yeah, but again, they pulled her over because of that. Just because you were weaving doesn't mean that you're impaired. Again, I've been pulled over for the same exact thing, and the officers found I was tired, right? They was like, oh, you're just tired. You're not drunk, and they let me go. Well, why is that? I'm a person to call them black guy, right? I'm supposed to be beat up and in jail. They supposed to be finding any reason whatsoever to charge me with something. They didn't give me a speeding ticket. Tried to accuse me of speeding too. Didn't even give me a speeding ticket. Well, why is that? Because one, I wasn't drunk. And two, I was respectful, right? I did everything they asked, and they let me go. I mean, it's really that simple. That's what this situation is, too. But again, this guy can't accept that because, oh, well, these are all Trump supporters letting each other off. I'm so upset. It's a travesty. But you have nothing to say about Paul Pelosi, who obviously, it looks like that the system is going to get him off with much less punishment than he actually should get for almost killing somebody. Won't talk about it. Not one video.
Okay, there's more. No citations were issued, according to Sonny. Added that the officers are able to check if a person has a valid license with the help of a computer check. That's to cover their asses because they never saw a driver's license, which Bo and Worland did. Let's put up the chief and the deputy chief here. Okay, you got Chief Michael Curley and Deputy Chief Sean Case. Michael's on the left, Sean is on the right. At the time of the incident, the chief gave a very vague, flowery response as he wanted to, and I quote, personally address the community to provide some clarity regarding their internal standards of conduct. All right, so Case said, we recognize that some saw the post and believed it was in fact inappropriate. Worland and Bo were placed on administrative leave during an 11-day investigation. Police would not provide additional information about the investigation, including which policies were violated and what, if any, repercussions the officers faced. The investigation regarding the incident is completed and is part of the confidential personnel files that will not be released publicly. Another police spokesperson said both officers remain employed with the department. Now, the last time I checked, police officers work for the public. They're paid by taxpayers. They do not work for a private corporation. They do not work for a private entity. They are, in fact, public servants. But all of a sudden, there's this confidential, top secret, nobody can get access to file with a public worker. Let's put up a picture of the guy behind much of this. This is your president of the police union. All right, this is Sergeant Jeremy Cockling, president of the police union. This president said officers have discretion and generally don't cite for minor offenses, like not having a physical license present. But she was swerving in and out of traffic. At least she should have been mandated to produce a driver's license. I'm not at all surprised they did not write a citation. I don't know that a lot of officers would have written that citation, if any. But you have not been pulled over, sir, by the cops that have pulled me over.
Okay, so I got pulled over by cops. I'm black, just like Rashard Richey, right? This is the card he's playing here. When black people get pulled over, when so-called people of color get pulled over, they don't get this type of privilege. I got the type of privilege. This woman, who's an Asian woman, got that type of privilege. What is your point here? What information do you want to know? Because the woman, there's no evidence that she was actually drunk outside the fact that she was weaving. That doesn't necessarily mean that she was drunk. Now, what I want to know is that did they perform, I guess, an alcohol intoxication test? That's what I want to know. If they didn't perform that, then yeah, I think that, you know, there's probably some issues there in regards to, okay, why didn't you do that if she was weaving? But if they did do that, and they know she wasn't drunk, or they have proof or evidence that she wasn't drunk, or no reason to believe that she was drunk, outside of the swerving thing, but when they talked to her or whatever, they did whatever test they did, then the only thing you can cite her for is not having a license. But I thought that Rashard Richey was in favor of blacks, people of color, not getting citations for small things like that because that's oppressive. That's oppressive. But apparently not in this situation, because this woman's a Trump supporter. And because these cops are white, because the whole department is white. Oh, I'm so pissed off about this. I'm upset that these white men let a woman of color off. A woman of color I disagree with politically. You see how that works here, guys? That's what's going on here. And that's why I just find this to be so hilarious. These guys are clowns, bruh. They're jokes, right? Again, I'm not sure exactly what this guy wants to happen. I'm not seeing where the actual white privilege is coming in here. Okay, the officers were placed on leave. They're investigated. I mean, I don't even think they should have been investigated, to be quite honest with you. I mean, it was obvious what happened. It happens all the time, right? To people who are respectful to officers, okay, who do what they're told. Yeah, the officers let them off, right? Wow. Again, it just blows my mind. Anyways, let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.